I, first thing, I just have to say, you are freaking magical. You are, I don't know how you do it. I feel in so many ways like you are, I don't know, like I'm your tarot card or your paints or your, I don't even know, I feel so seen by you, so known by you. I feel like I could have just the slightest eyelash out of place and you would just know it. And you would be able to read and see and intuit a million things off of that. And I have to say, there were so many ways that that made me feel scared. Because for so long I felt like I could never lie to you, and that made me feel naked in some kind of sinful way. Like, if I couldn't hide things from you that I didn't want you to see, then that was somehow a bad thing. Though I have to tell you, feminine, in moments like this and days like this, when I feel like I've been doing everything to desperately keep from hitting complete rock bottom, that I don't know, I keep getting called back to this little light within me, this little warmth that I guess I'm just kind of reminded that I was never able to hide this part of myself from you, and you never ran from it. You never looked at me like some three-eyed, four-horned monster because I wasn't always able to do right or keep successes going. And then on top of that, I mean, I've watched you, and it's amazing. And also, I mean, I cannot deny how envious and jealous I have been to watch you. I feel like anything and everything can come in and completely knock you down, tower after tower, phoenix moment after phoenix moment, and still you rise. And I know that I have been largely a reason for those tears in your eyes and for a lot of the tumbles. It's part of what's kept me from just running back in, is that I don't want to be, I don't know, I don't trust myself, feminine. I don't want to rush in and then add my own chaos to what you're already going through, because I'm absolutely amazed and inspired at how you manage to pick yourself up time and time again. I feel like I've been trying to do that and somehow not getting it, and I realized so much of it was because I was watching what you were doing from such an outside perspective of just, well, she's saying the things, she's doing the things, but I really didn't get it in a, I had it in more of a 3D exterior me way, and I just felt like you were so, I don't know, you're so much more high caliber than me. Like you're a ballerina who can dance on her toes and gracefully fly across the stage, and I'm like a clumsy trapeze artist who can't stay out of the net. It just, it didn't feel like two things that matched until, I don't know, I watched you doing your thing, and I've been following along silently, cheering you on, wanting so much to tell you how much I am really your biggest fan, and I feel like you know it, but yet I've given no confirmation, so I know you can't really know it. But I don't know, feminine, the way that you are and how intuitive you are with me, I wouldn't be surprised if you did know it and you didn't even need the confirmation. And that for me has been such a hard lesson, to be able to just trust what my heart tells me and not need, a dozen confirmations from people around me, not need somebody to tell me that it's okay to do what I feel called to do, or to have somebody next to me to tell me that it's okay to go against the grain when I know that that's right for me. But I have to tell you, feminine, between the fact that there are so many times you would have been completely righteous and just completely walking away from this path with me. You could have done it at any point in time. And amazingly, even when I think that you have, somehow feminine, I don't know how you do it. And it's both frustrating and exciting to see that you've never walked off the path away from me. That somehow, even when I think that maybe you're doing what I feared you would, like getting into the manipulations or the things that are just, I don't know, that I'm used to from feminines, it, I find that you're not, that you're like being my perfect dance partner. I don't even know how to explain that. Like, you're always, you're ebbing and flowing with the energy and that I present, and then that made me realize that the energy I present you with is what you have to dance with, and that I can't even fault you if it went to a weird downward spiral or an awkward diagonal one, because that's the energy I presented, and you're simply going with the flow and playing with in the lines that I allowed them to be played in, and sometimes dancing outside them, and it feels like you're mocking me, and yet I know that you're not, that you're just over there saying, come now, masculine, just come and play with me. You don't have to stay inside that box or inside those lines or inside that cage. And then I feel envious because it feels, it's felt so long to me like I am stuck there. Like there is no way out. I can't take the blindfold off. I can't do this. And it feels sometimes feminine, like you'll come in and you'll just poke at me or poke at the blindfold and it'll fall right off and you'll be like, see, silly masculine, it wasn't even on that tight. You could have shaken it off with a flick of your head. And here I was standing there the whole time holding myself still, afraid to move because I couldn't see or I didn't know, and I never even thought to just turn my head to the left or turn my head to the right and it might fall off. And then I realized how many times I put myself in mental prisons. I held myself to rules that nobody made. I made up stories in my mind of ways that things had to be that nobody even told me they had to be. And I'm recognizing that many of them do come from the way I was raised and the experiences I had before these moments, but I'm just seeing, it feels like for the first time in so many ways that I'm seeing how I have really built up these stories in my own mind that I use to hold myself back, and it feels like, I know it sounds absurd, but it feels like that's the only real difference between anything that you're doing and that I'm doing, and why you have this beautiful, glowing success and this radiant personality, and that you are building community versus me over here who is feel like floundering, and everything I thought that was going to be stable is completely unstable. And the difference is you delight in the stories that you create and choose to follow those strings, and you don't have this attachment to anything being the way you were told it was supposed to be or the way the media is presented to be. You're a free thinker, and you recognize that you can commune with the universe in any way that you like. And I see you embodying that freedom and living it. And it just, it wasn't until recently when, I don't even know, I don't even want to go into it. Some hard things happened. And I know that I took some of it out on you even, and that wasn't fair, and it sucked because you laid some hard boundaries that needed to be laid, and that made me look at the mess I made, the mess I was allowing to happen, but it also made me kind of come alive a little bit, be more awake, more present about what I was going to be left with if I kept pushing away those who've really been there, who've had my back, who've been ride or die for me, most especially you. And it really made me realize how many growth opportunities I was not taking advantage of, and for what. And I just thought, you know what, if I keep on this path, I'm gonna wake up and be 85 and realize I spent my whole life chasing money and that I don't have any beautiful memories. I don't have anything to delight in, and more than anything, feminine, I miss the whimsy that you brought into my life. The magic, the mystery, the imagination, the chance to just be playful as often as possible. And you know what's funny? I can remember so many times before that I thought that you were being silly and irresponsible and that there would be this crazy imbalance, but I see you living in it. I don't know, and sometimes it seems like you're a high wire act in a circus, and yet you do all these amazing gravity defying things that nobody would have ever expected to have been done, and it's easy for you, and you have the balance in there. And I don't know, it's you're like an angel of balance. And I feel like I've been so stuck in this place where it has to be so rigid. The lines have to fit so tightly. I have to have all the things in place, all the material things, all the 3D things, all the social things. And I don't know, I guess as things started to crash down more and more, and I couldn't even hold in a lot of things that I knew that shouldn't be said and shouldn't be shared and shouldn't be projected onto you, and then it happened anyways, and all these fights and towers and battles started to occur, and I just thought about, is this the life I really want to live? Are those who are in closest proximity really the people I want to be energetically closest to me? Emotionally closest to me? Do they even have the ability to share and delight in that part that is me? And do I really want to know them that intimately, that deeply? Are these people that I want to explore that with? And that got me to realizing that all the things that you tried to talk me into before that I ran from because they just screamed at me commitment, it's a trap, it's a trick, don't do it, are actually all the things that I've always deeply craved. And I walked away from that. And I just felt like a fool. I feel like I've spent most of the time since then trying to figure out how do I tell you about it? How do I tell you what I've realized? How do I tell you what I see? How do I tell you, please don't leave me? And yet also, it's okay if you do, because I recognize how slow I've been, how awful I've been. And yet it feels like for the first time I want to defy everything that I've known to be proper etiquette in a situation like this, which feels like, shut up, be a man about it, don't cry about it, you did this, you made your bed, you lie in it, and you let her go because you lost her. She's now the one who got away because you were too blind, too stubborn, and too stupid to just be there for her in the ways she was there for you. And it feels like this is one of the first times in my life I wanted to just chuck that bucket of rules out the door and say, screw it. I'm going to go to my feminine. I'm going to tell her how I feel. And I'm going to tell her all the things I've been hiding and just roll the dice. And worst case, my worst fears will be confirmed and she'll never want to see me again. But best case, you'll just look at me with that smirk and that twinkle in your eye and say, welcome home, my masculine. It is so delicious and wonderful to see you. That you'll tell me which things like you used to say, like, when I give from a place of genuine love and want to give, it's always more than enough. Even if it feels like the tiniest little amount, like you'll look at me and say, it always takes less than you think. And I will feel so safe in that moment, even if we're standing between a fence that I can just let myself weep in a way that I feel like I've not been able to do since I went away. And yet, I also recognize that I'm just not there yet. That I've been trying to psych myself into doing this so many times, and I don't know, lately I feel like I've been almost naturally learning to, I don't want to say speak your language, but just to allow myself to play with some of the concepts that you've been leaving like little Easter eggs along the way. And I don't even think you did it on purpose, but yet they're all there. It feels like a trail of breadcrumbs from this strange demonic place in the middle of a dark forest that you've left for me, and they all glow like little mushrooms from Fern Gully, and they're always right there when I need them, leading me back to this light, playful meadow where I can play, where I can feel connected to the universe, and I know in the moment that I'm ready for more, that more will appear. And I don't know exactly how that works, and I don't know, but it feels like the more I do the things that I see you doing and the things that you've asked me to do, it feels like I feel so much lighter. Just be honest, masculine. Take care of yourself, masculine. Eat better. Drink some water. I can remember so many times that you demanded that I promise you that I'd take care of myself, and I did promise, and then I didn't take care of myself. And I can't tell you how crushing it is for me to not have kept such basic promises. You weren't even really even asking for you, but at the same time I knew that it genuinely mattered to you that I take care of myself, no matter where I was, no matter who I was with, no matter even if we were getting along, that you genuinely cared how I was doing, how I was feeling. And I don't know, ever since I lit that match and that fight started, and you didn't react in any of the ways that I expected you to, or that you would have in the past. You were, I don't know, it was almost like you were expecting everything that happened, and then in the moment you just said, here's the boundaries, la la la, I'm gonna go play now. And I didn't know what to do with myself. I knew in one hand that I felt like you must be impossibly angry at me, and yet I also knew you as my feminine, as this divine being who has never been that way with me and never stayed in that place, and yet I still saw all the dozens of people and places in the past who would have never looked at me twice after something like that. They were not boundaries, they were cutoffs. And as I sat in the distance, in the silence, wanting so desperately to reach back out to you, and also feeling like I couldn't. Most especially because everything you said spoke to me come correct. And I felt like nothing about my life in its current situation allowed for that, even if I knew exactly what that meant. But I can tell you, I've never wanted anything more in my life than to understand what that meant on my own and be able to show it to you. But that space and that time, I realized once I cooled off, once I've had my temper tantrum, that I did know what you meant, and I remembered many things you said, and that nothing is ever as hard as I tend to make it in my head. And I started to kind of play with this little thing I think you've called intuition, and just, I don't always have to know why I feel called to do something, just to know that I do feel it, that I want to do it, and that when I do those things, whether I'm connected with you directly or not, I feel like I am connected to you, and it feels like an impossible truth, and yet I know it to be true, and it feels like I need to protect that. Sometimes even from you, because I still get afraid, because when I'm fooling myself, you're the first person to call me out on it, and I don't know if I'm doing it right yet. But I have this beautiful voice in my head that goes between your voice and mine that's telling me that I'm doing it right. And that even if it's not perfect right now, it will grow into exactly what I need and what I know that it's starting to be. In feminine, I've gotten most all of that from watching the beautifully inspiring person that you've chosen to be. And I love that word now, chosen, choice. It makes such a difference to choose what you want, to know that you can choose anything. I still don't fully understand everything that you know about or talk about or things that other people talk about on this twin flame journey and all this sci-fi kind of stuff about timeline jumping and spirals and cycles and loops and all these things, but I want to, and I think that's a significant difference. So thank you. Thank you for that, my love.